Welcome, curious minds, to Beyond Midnight. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our deep dives into history's most fascinating and often darkest corners. Tonight, we embark on a voyage that reshaped the very fabric of warfare, a journey across treacherous seas and into the heart of a revolution born from wood, sail, and an unyielding spirit. We're talking, of course, about the Vikings, and more specifically, the unparalleled vessels that were not merely ships, but instruments of terror, trade, and transformation, the Viking longships. For centuries, the image of the Viking has been etched into our collective consciousness as that of a fearsome warrior, axe in hand, helmet adorned with horns, though that particular detail is a romanticized myth. Yet, beneath the popular portrayal of barbarian brutality lies a truth far more complex and profoundly impactful. The Vikings were not just raiders. They were explorers, traders, settlers, and crucially, master shipbuilders whose maritime innovations propelled them from the cold, harsh lands of Scandinavia to the distant shores of North America, the bustling markets of Constantinople, and the fertile plains of England and France. Their ships were the veins through which their ambitions flowed, the very sinews of their power, and the primary reason why their influence reverberated across continents and generations, forever altering the landscape of naval warfare and global interaction. Before the age of the longship, naval engagements were often predictable, confined largely to coastal waters or major rivers, dominated by vessels that were either sturdy but slow or nimble but fragile. The Roman galleys, for instance, were marvels of engineering for their time, powered by hundreds of oarsmen, capable of ramming and boarding actions. Yet they were heavy, required deep harbors, and struggled in the unpredictable conditions of the open ocean. Frankish and Anglo-Saxon vessels, while perhaps more adapted to northern waters, were still relatively unsophisticated, often little more than large, open boats, primarily used for transport or short-range coastal defense. Warfare at sea was typically an extension of land warfare, with ships serving as platforms to bring warriors to battle rather than being decisive weapons in themselves. The concept of amphibious assault, of striking deep inland with lightning speed, was largely unknown, or at least unimplementable on a grand scale. The logistics of moving large forces across water, let alone maintaining supply lines or executing surprise attacks far from home, were prohibitive. Then came the longship, a design so radical, so perfectly suited to its purpose, that it effectively rendered all previous naval thinking obsolete. It was not a single, monolithic design, but rather a family of vessels, each optimized for specific tasks, yet all sharing a core set of revolutionary characteristics. From the swift drakkar or dragon ship, designed for war and raiding, to the broader, deeper-hulled Knarr for trade and exploration, these ships were a testament to centuries of accumulated knowledge, meticulous craftsmanship, and an intimate understanding of the sea. The genesis of the longship lies deep in the pre-Viking Iron Age, evolving from simpler, dugout canoes and skin boats. Early examples, like the Knight'em ship from the 4th century AD, show the initial steps towards plank construction and a more sophisticated hull. But it was in the crucible of the late 8th and early 9th centuries, amidst a period of demographic expansion, technological advancement, and increasing ambition in Scandinavia, that the longship truly came into its own. The need for faster, more versatile vessels to navigate both the tempestuous North Sea and the shallow inland waterways was paramount. The result was a masterpiece of naval architecture, a design that balanced speed, strength, and an astonishing degree of flexibility. At the heart of the longship's revolutionary impact was its unique construction, the clinker-built hull. Unlike the carvel-built ships that would become dominant much later, where planks are laid edge-to-edge to form a smooth surface, clinker construction involved overlapping planks, riveted together. This method, while labor-intensive, created a hull that was incredibly strong yet remarkably flexible. As the ship moved through waves, the planks could flex and shift slightly, absorbing the shock of the sea rather than rigidly resisting it. This made the Longship exceptionally seaworthy, capable of withstanding the most violent storms in the open ocean, a feat few other contemporary vessels could match. But the clinker construction was just one piece of the puzzle. The Longship was also characterized by its incredibly shallow draft. Many Longships required only a meter or less of water to float. This seemingly simple feature was a game changer. It meant that Viking ships could not only traverse vast stretches of open ocean, but could then effortlessly navigate rivers, estuaries, and even beach directly onto sandy shores. No longer were raiders confined to major ports or deep harbors. They could bypass coastal defenses, sail deep into enemy territory, strike at unsuspecting inland settlements, and disappear before any organized resistance could be mounted. This ability to transition seamlessly from sea to river and from river to land was unprecedented and gave the Vikings an unparalleled strategic advantage. Coupled with its shallow draft was the Longship's remarkable speed. Sleek and narrow, often with a length-to-beam ratio of 5:1 or even 7:1, these ships were designed to cut through the water with minimal resistance. They were powered by both a single, large square sail and numerous oars. The sail allowed for efficient long-distance travel across open water, harnessing the prevailing winds. But when the wind failed, or when precision maneuvering was required, in narrow fjords, up rivers, or during battle, the oars took over. A typical longship might have 30 to 60 oarsmen, capable of propelling the vessel at speeds that often outpaced any pursuit. This dual propulsion system provided an unmatched level of control and adaptability, allowing the Vikings to maintain speed and direction regardless of wind conditions, a critical factor in their hit-and-run tactics. The design also incorporated a symmetrical hull, meaning the bow and stern were almost identical. This allowed the ship to reverse direction quickly without the need for a complex and time-consuming turning maneuver. By simply shifting the steering oar from one end to the other, the ship could effectively turn on a dime, a crucial capability for escaping pursuit or navigating tight waterways. The steering oar itself, mounted on the starboard side, hence starboard from steerboard, was another innovation, offering far greater control and responsiveness than the stern rudders found on later ships or the less efficient steering sweeps of earlier vessels. The combination of these features, the flexible, clinker-built hull, the shallow draft, the speed derived from both sail and oar, and the symmetrical, highly maneuverable design, created a vessel that was truly revolutionary. It was a ship that could brave the Atlantic storms, yet slip silently up a shallow river. It could carry a large contingent of warriors, their arms and supplies, and deliver them directly to an unsuspecting village or monastery. It was, in essence, the ultimate platform for surprise attack and rapid withdrawal, a weapon system perfectly engineered for the unique brand of warfare that the Vikings would unleash upon the world. The early Viking raids, such as the infamous attack on Lindisfarne Monastery in 793 AD, serve as stark illustrations of the Longship's transformative power. Prior to this, monastic settlements, often located on isolated islands or coastal areas, were considered relatively safe from large-scale assault. They were remote, and the logistics of transporting a significant raiding force across water to these locations were thought to be too challenging for any swift, devastating attack. But the Longship shattered these assumptions. A small fleet of these vessels could appear seemingly out of nowhere, disgorge its warriors onto a beach, and within hours plunder the settlement, kill or enslave its inhabitants, and be back out to sea, laden with treasure, before any local defense could even mobilize. The speed, stealth, and shallow draft of the Longships were the keys to this success. They allowed the Vikings to strike with surgical precision, exploiting the vulnerabilities of a world unprepared for such mobile and audacious adversaries. This element of surprise was not merely a tactical advantage, it was a psychological weapon. The sudden appearance of dragon-prowed ships on the horizon, or worse, deep within a river system, instilled a profound terror. It was an invasion from an unexpected direction, by an enemy who seemed to defy the very laws of geography and conventional warfare. The longship was not just a means of transport, it was a symbol of this new, terrifying reality. Its sleek lines, often adorned with fearsome dragon or serpent heads, were an extension of the Viking warrior's intent, an announcement of impending doom. As the Viking Age progressed, the longship continued to evolve, adapting to new challenges and opportunities. While the drakkar remained the quintessential warship, designed for speed and carrying capacity for warriors, other variants emerged. The sneck, a slightly smaller and lighter warship, was often used for coastal raiding and riverine operations. The Knarr, a broader, deeper-hulled ship with a greater emphasis on cargo capacity, became the backbone of Viking trade and exploration. These ships, while still clinker-built and often capable of both sail and oar, sacrificed some of the longship's speed for increased stability and carrying power, allowing for the transport of livestock, goods, and settlers across vast distances. It was the Knarr that carried Leif Erikson and his crew to the shores of North America centuries before Columbus, demonstrating the incredible range and endurance of Viking maritime technology. The ability to switch seamlessly between these different types of vessels, or even to adapt a single vessel for multiple roles, speaks to the inherent versatility of Viking shipbuilding. A longship might be used for raiding one season, and then for carrying tribute or trading goods the next. This adaptability meant that the Vikings were not just raiders, but also incredibly effective entrepreneurs and colonizers, using their ships to establish vast trading networks that stretched from the Baltic to the Black Sea, and to settle new lands from Iceland and Greenland to the British Isles and Normandy. Their ships were the arteries of an emerging global economy, connecting disparate cultures and facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and people on an unprecedented scale. The longship's impact extended far beyond mere mobility and surprise attacks. It fundamentally altered the nature of naval battles themselves. Prior to the Vikings, large-scale naval engagements often involved ramming and boarding, but the longship introduced new tactics. While ramming was not a primary feature due to their lighter construction, the longships were designed to be platforms for archers and warriors. In battle, multiple longships would often be lashed together, creating a floating fortress, a stable platform from which warriors could fight. This tactic, known as tying the ships, transformed a collection of individual vessels into a cohesive fighting unit, maximizing the defensive strength and offensive firepower of the Viking fleet. This approach to naval combat was a reflection of the Viking warrior culture. They were primarily land-based fighters, and their ships were designed to bring them into close-quarters combat, where their axe and sword skills could be brought to bear. The longship was a mobile battlefield, an extension of the land, allowing them to project their formidable fighting prowess across the waves. Naval battles became less about sinking enemy ships and more about overwhelming their crews through boarding actions, a brutal and direct form of engagement that played to the Vikings' strengths. The longship's influence was not limited to the immediate destruction and disruption it caused. Its very existence forced other European powers to reevaluate their own naval capabilities and coastal defenses. The Franks, the Anglo-Saxons, and later the Normans all had to contend with the existential threat posed by these fast, versatile raiders. Fortifications were built, coastal watchtowers erected, and river blockades attempted, but often with limited success. The sheer speed and shallow draft of the longships meant that defenses designed for deeper-hulled vessels were often useless. Rivers that were once considered safe interior routes now became highways for invasion. This forced innovation and adaptation, Kings like Alfred the Great of Wessex, for example, understood that to defeat the Vikings, one had to fight them on their own terms, or at least counter their advantages. Alfred is credited with building a new fleet of ships, larger than the Viking Longships, designed to intercept and defeat them at sea. While the details of Alfred's ships are debated, the very fact that a powerful kingdom felt compelled to invest heavily in naval power, specifically to counter the Viking threat, speaks volumes about the Longships' disruptive influence. It sparked an arms race, a continuous cycle of innovation and counter-innovation that would shape European naval history for centuries to come. The Longship had, in essence, set a new benchmark for maritime power and versatility. The legacy of the Longship is not just one of warfare and destruction, however. It is also a testament to human ingenuity and the power of exploration. These ships carried Vikings not just to battle, but to new lands, fostering trade, settlement, and the exchange of cultures. They enabled the establishment of Viking colonies in Iceland, Greenland, and ultimately, North America, creating a vast diaspora that spread Norse culture and influence across the globe. Without the Longship, these voyages of discovery and colonization would have been impossible, or at the very least, far more limited in scope. The ship was the vehicle of their expansion, the silent partner in every saga of exploration and conquest. The materials and craftsmanship that went into building these vessels were themselves remarkable. The primary material was oak, prized for its strength and durability, but other woods like pine and ash were also used. Trees were carefully selected and often split radially rather than sawn, a technique that followed the natural grain of the wood, making the planks incredibly strong and resistant to warping. This method, known as cleaving, was labor-intensive but resulted in superior building materials. The planks were then shaped with axes and adzes, tools that allowed for precise control and the creation of the characteristic curves of the clinker hull. Iron rivets, thousands of them, secured the overlapping planks, creating a hull that was both watertight and flexible. The construction of a longship was a community effort, requiring skilled carpenters, blacksmiths, and rope makers. It was a painstaking process, often taking months or even years to complete a single vessel. Every component, from the keel to the mast, from the oars to the sail, was crafted with an intimate understanding of its purpose and the stresses it would endure at sea. The sails, typically made of wool, were woven by women, often coated with animal fat or beeswax to make them more water-resistant. The ropes were made from bast fibers, such as linden or hemp, twisted into strong, flexible lines. This holistic approach to shipbuilding, where every element was meticulously planned and executed, ensured the unparalleled quality and reliability of the longship. The longship was more than just a collection of planks and rivets. It was a living entity, imbued with the spirit of its builders and its crew. It was a marvel of engineering, a product of generations of accumulated knowledge and innovation. And it was this mastery of shipbuilding, this profound connection to the sea, that allowed the Vikings to transcend the limitations of their northern homeland and to project their power and influence across a vast and often hostile world. The age of the longship fundamentally altered the understanding of what was possible at sea. It demonstrated that swift, shallow draft vessels could be incredibly seaworthy, capable of both deep ocean voyages and shallow river incursions. It showed that naval power could be used not just for coastal defense or skirmishes, but for large-scale, coordinated amphibious assaults that could strike deep into enemy territory. It proved that a relatively small group of determined warriors, equipped with superior maritime technology, could hold entire kingdoms ransom and reshape geopolitical landscapes. The psychological impact of the longship cannot be overstated. For those living in coastal communities or along navigable rivers, the sight of a dragon-prowed ship appearing out of the mist was a harbinger of terror. The speed and suddenness of the Viking attacks, facilitated by their ships, created a pervasive sense of vulnerability and fear. Monasteries, once considered safe havens, became prime targets, their wealth a tempting prize, and their isolation a fatal flaw when faced with an enemy capable of striking anywhere, anytime. The longship was the embodiment of this new, unpredictable threat, a symbol of a world turned upside down. This era of Viking dominance, driven by their ships, forced a reevaluation of defense strategies across Europe. Coastal watchtowers became more prevalent, local militias were organized, and in some areas, river systems were deliberately obstructed to prevent the passage of longships. Yet these measures were often reactive and piecemeal, struggling to keep pace with the Vikings' ability to adapt and find new routes. The sheer length of many European coastlines and river networks made comprehensive defense almost impossible. The longship, in its elegant simplicity, had exposed a fundamental weakness in the existing military and political structures of the time. The legacy of the longship can be seen in the subsequent development of European naval power. While the specific design features of the longship eventually gave way to Clinker-built ships and the adoption of stern rudders, the fundamental lessons learned from the Viking Age endured. The importance of speed, maneuverability, and the ability to project power across water became enduring principles of naval strategy. The concept of amphibious warfare, pioneered by the Vikings, would be revisited and refined by later military powers, becoming a cornerstone of modern military doctrine. The longship was not merely a vessel, it was a catalyst for change, a technological marvel that unlocked an era of unprecedented exploration, trade, and conflict. It was the key that opened the door for the Vikings to leave an indelible mark on history, to connect distant lands, and to forever alter the course of warfare. Its impact resonates even today, a testament to the ingenuity of a people who mastered the sea, and in doing so, mastered their world. We delve deeper now into the practicalities of how these magnificent vessels were actually operated and maintained, revealing further layers of their revolutionary nature. The crew of a longship was not merely a collection of oarsmen and warriors. They were a highly disciplined and specialized unit, each member playing a crucial role in the ship's performance and the success of any expedition. The captain or skipper was not only a skilled navigator but also a leader, responsible for the well-being of his crew and the execution of the mission. His knowledge of the sea, the stars, and the subtle signs of weather was paramount. Navigation for the Vikings was a sophisticated art, relying on a combination of observation, experience, and ingenious tools. They used the sun, stars, and the direction of prevailing winds and currents to chart their course. In cloudy conditions, they may have employed a sunstone, possibly a form of Icelandic spar, which could polarize light and reveal the sun's position even when obscured. The flight paths of birds, the appearance of specific types of seaweed, and the color of the water all served as indicators of proximity to land. This deep understanding of their environment allowed them to undertake voyages far beyond the sight of land, across vast stretches of open ocean that would have been unthinkable for many other cultures of the time. The longship was the vessel, but the Vikings' navigational prowess was the engine that truly extended their reach. Life aboard a longship, particularly on long voyages, was undoubtedly harsh. Space was limited and comfort was minimal. Warriors slept on their cloaks, often sharing the narrow deck with their weapons and supplies. Food consisted of dried meat, fish, bread, and fermented drinks, carefully rationed to last the journey. Yet the efficiency of the longship meant that even these arduous conditions were endured for the promise of plunder, trade, or new lands. The communal nature of the journey fostered strong bonds among the crew, transforming them from individuals into a cohesive fighting force, ready to act as one upon reaching their destination. The maintenance of these ships was also a continuous and vital task. The wooden hulls required regular care to prevent rot and infestation. Tar, made from pine resin, was used to seal the planks and protect them from salt water. Repairs were often carried out on the go, with skilled carpenters among the crew ready to patch damage or replace worn parts. The sails, rigging, and oars also demanded constant attention. This commitment to maintenance ensured the longevity and reliability of the longships, allowing them to undertake multiple expeditions over many years, a testament to the Vikings' foresight and practical engineering skills. The speed and maneuverability of the longship also allowed for innovative tactical deployments. In an age where communication was slow and coordinated movements across large distances were difficult, the longship offered a degree of operational flexibility that was unprecedented. A fleet of longships could scatter to avoid a storm or to scout different routes, then reassemble with surprising speed. They could feign retreat, drawing out an enemy, only to turn and engage on their own terms. They could launch diversionary attacks, drawing defenders away from a primary target, or use their speed to outflank larger, slower forces. This tactical versatility made them incredibly difficult to predict and counter. One of the most enduring images of the longship is its distinctive prow, often carved into the shape of a dragon or serpent head. While these carvings undoubtedly served a symbolic and intimidating purpose, they also had a practical function. They were often detachable, and sagas suggest they were removed when approaching friendly shores to avoid frightening local spirits or settlers. However, when raiding, these fearsome figureheads were displayed prominently, designed to strike terror into the hearts of those who saw them. They were an extension of the psychological warfare that the Vikings waged, turning their ships into menacing, living creatures that heralded destruction. The impact of the longship on warfare was not limited to its offensive capabilities. It also influenced the way defensive structures were built and organized. As noted earlier, coastal fortifications and river blockades became more common, but the Vikings' ability to bypass these defenses often rendered them ineffective. This forced a shift in defensive thinking, moving away from static, point defenses towards more mobile, responsive forces. The very landscape of medieval Europe was, in a sense, reshaped by the longship, as settlements moved further inland or fortified themselves more heavily, adapting to the new reality of maritime threat. Furthermore, the longship facilitated the widespread dissemination of Viking culture and influence. As they raided and settled, they brought with them their language, their laws, their art, and their technologies. The very word Viking has entered many languages, a testament to their enduring impact. The longship was the vehicle for this cultural exchange, carrying not just warriors and plunder, but also the seeds of new societies and new ways of life. From the Norse settlements in Ireland and Scotland to the ruse control of the river routes to Constantinople, the longship was the instrument of cultural diffusion on a scale rarely seen before. The design principles of the longship, particularly its shallow draft and robust yet flexible construction, would continue to influence shipbuilding for centuries. While the Knarr-built ships of the later Middle Ages and Renaissance would eventually dominate, the lessons learned from the longship about seaworthiness, speed, and versatility were not lost. Elements of its design, particularly in smaller, regional vessels, can be seen long after the Viking Age officially ended. It stands as a testament to the timeless appeal of effective engineering and the enduring power of a design perfectly suited to its environment and purpose. The longship, in essence, was a marvel of its time, a technological leap that fundamentally altered the dynamics of power and warfare across Europe and beyond. It was a weapon, a trading vessel, an explorer's craft, and a colonizer's transport, all rolled into one. It allowed a relatively small population from the fringes of Europe to project its power across vast distances, to challenge established empires, and to leave an indelible mark on the course of history. Its legacy is not just one of violence and destruction, but also of unparalleled innovation, daring exploration, and profound cultural exchange. As we reflect on the Viking Age, it becomes clear that without the longship, the story would have been entirely different. there would have been no widespread raids, no vast trading networks, no settlements in distant lands, and certainly no voyages to North America. The longship was the engine of the Viking Age, the heart that pumped life into their ambitions, and the vessel that truly changed warfare forever. The genius of the longship lay not in any single, complex invention, but in the elegant synthesis of several well-understood principles, combined with an intimate knowledge of materials and the sea. The clinker-built hull, as previously discussed, provided unparalleled strength and flexibility. But let's delve deeper into the specific advantages this offered in a combat scenario. A rigid hull, when struck by a wave or an enemy vessel, would absorb the force at a single point, risking structural failure. The overlapping planks of the clinker design, however, allowed the entire hull to flex and distribute the stress, making it incredibly resilient. This meant Viking longships could withstand far more punishment, both from the elements and from enemy attacks, than their contemporaries. In a boarding action, where ships would often crash together, this flexibility reduced the risk of catastrophic damage. Furthermore, the lightweight construction of the longship, achieved through thin planks and minimal internal framing, contributed significantly to its speed. Unlike the heavy, deep-hulled vessels of other cultures, which sacrificed speed for cargo capacity or defensive bulk, the longship prioritized swiftness. This was crucial for hit-and-run tactics. A Viking fleet could appear on the horizon, execute a devastating raid, and vanish before any substantial resistance could be mounted. This speed also made them incredibly difficult to intercept at sea. Larger, slower ships simply could not catch them, and smaller, faster vessels lacked the seaworthiness or carrying capacity to pose a significant threat. The longship's shallow draft, while allowing access to rivers and beaches, also made it incredibly difficult to blockade effectively. Traditional naval blockades relied on positioning large ships in deep channels, forcing enemy vessels to either engage or turn back. But the longship could simply bypass these blockades by sailing over sandbanks, through shallow estuaries, or even by being portaged short distances over land. This ability to circumvent conventional defenses meant that no coastal area or riverine settlement was truly safe. The Vikings could choose their point of attack with almost complete freedom, dictating the terms of engagement and keeping their enemies constantly guessing. The dual propulsion system of sail and oar was another critical factor in their tactical superiority. The square sail, made of durable wool, provided efficient power for long-distance voyages, conserving the energy of the oarsmen. But when approaching a target, or when precise maneuvering was required in battle, the oars became paramount. The synchronized stroke of dozens of oarsmen could propel the longship forward with incredible power and control, allowing for rapid acceleration, sharp turns, and silent approach. This adaptability meant the longship was equally effective in the open ocean, a narrow fjord, or a winding river, giving the Vikings an unmatched versatility in their operations. The crew of a longship was not just a collection of individuals, but a highly trained and cohesive unit. Each oarsman was also a warrior, and their discipline extended beyond the battlefield to the very operation of the ship. The sagas often describe the swiftness with which Viking crews could deploy for battle upon landing, or the precision with which they could execute complex maneuvers at sea. This level of coordination was a direct result of extensive training and the close bonds forged during arduous voyages. The ship and its crew were an extension of each other, a single, formidable fighting entity. The strategic implications of the longship were profound. It effectively nullified the geographical barriers that had previously protected many European societies. Islands, once natural fortresses, became exposed. Inland settlements, once secure behind coastal defenses, found themselves vulnerable to riverine assaults. The longship transformed the very concept of a frontier, blurring the lines between sea and land, and forcing a complete rethinking of defense. Kingdoms that had traditionally focused their military efforts on land-based armies now had to contend with a terrifying new threat from the sea. The longship also played a crucial role in the Viking expansion and colonization. The Knarr, a sturdier, broader-beamed variant of the longship, was specifically designed for cargo and long-distance voyages, carrying not just warriors and plunder, but also livestock, supplies, and families to new lands. These ships enabled the Vikings to settle Iceland, Greenland, and even establish a temporary settlement in North America at Elant's Ox Meadows. Without the Knarr, these incredible feats of exploration and colonization would have been impossible. It demonstrated that the same shipbuilding prowess that created instruments of war could also create vessels of peace, trade, and enduring settlement. The legacy of the longship is therefore multifaceted. It is a legacy of fear and destruction, but also of innovation, exploration, and cultural exchange. It stands as a testament to the ingenuity of a people who, through their mastery of shipbuilding, were able to transcend the limitations of their environment and leave an indelible mark on the world. The longship was not merely a vessel. It was a symbol of an age, a technological marvel that reshaped warfare, expanded horizons, and forever altered the course of human history. The very construction process of a longship was steeped in tradition and skill, passed down through generations. The selection of timber was paramount. Oak, for its strength and resistance to rot, was preferred for the keel and lower planks, while lighter woods like pine or ash might be used for upper strakes or internal components. The trees were often split radially, following the natural grain rather than sawn. This technique, known as cleaving, produced planks that were incredibly strong and flexible, far more resilient than sawn timber, which could cut across the grain and create weak points. This meticulous attention to material science, long before the term existed, was a hallmark of Viking craftsmanship. Once the planks were cleaved and shaped with axes and adzes, they were carefully fitted together, overlapping in the distinctive clinker style. Iron rivets, hammered through the overlapping edges and bent over on the inside, created a strong yet flexible bond. Thousands of these rivets would be used in a single longship, each one a testament to the labor and precision involved. The seams between the planks were then caulked with tarred animal hair or wool, ensuring a watertight hull. This combination of strong, flexible planks, riveted construction, and effective caulking created a vessel that could withstand the immense forces of the open ocean while remaining light enough for speed and shallow draft. The mast, a single tall spar, was stepped into a massive wooden block called the mast fish or mast partner, which distributed the forces of the sail across the ship's keel. This robust mounting was crucial, as the single square sail could exert enormous pressure, especially in strong winds. The rigging, made of twisted bast fibers or animal hide, was designed to be strong yet easily adjustable, allowing the crew to quickly trim the sail to suit changing wind conditions. The steering oar or styrboard was typically mounted on the right starboard side of the stern, allowing for precise control and quick changes in direction. Its robust attachment to the hull, often with a flexible leather strap, allowed it to pivot and absorb impacts, crucial for navigating shallow waters or during battle. The design of the longship was also remarkably adaptable to different sizes and purposes. While the archetypal longship, like the Oseberg or Gokstad ships, might be 20-30 meters long, smaller versions, often called carve, were used for local transport and short-range raiding. Larger warships, like the legendary Ormen Lange, Long Serpent of King Olav Tryggvason, were said to be up to 45 meters long, capable of carrying hundreds of warriors. This scalability meant that the Vikings could tailor their fleet to specific operational needs, from small, stealthy raiding parties to massive invasion forces. The sheer scale of effort required to build and maintain these fleets speaks volumes about the societal organization and resources dedicated to maritime power in Viking Scandinavia. Shipbuilding was not a peripheral activity. It was central to their economy, their warfare, and their very identity. Skilled shipwrights were highly valued, and the knowledge of their craft was a closely guarded secret, passed down through generations. The ability to build, maintain, and operate these sophisticated vessels was a source of immense pride and a fundamental pillar of Viking power. The longship was also a symbol of status and wealth. Chieftains and kings would commission elaborate longships, often adorned with intricate carvings and precious metals. These vessels were not just tools of war, but floating palaces, demonstrating the owner's power and prestige. When a chieftain died, his longship might even be used as his burial vessel, laden with grave goods, a final journey reflecting his life's achievements and his connection to the sea. The Oseberg and Gokstad ship burials are poignant reminders of this profound cultural significance, showcasing the artistry and reverence with which these vessels were regarded. The economic impact of the longship was equally transformative. It facilitated the expansion of Viking trade networks, connecting Scandinavia with the British Isles, continental Europe, and the Byzantine Empire. Goods such as furs, timber, amber, and slaves flowed along these maritime routes, exchanged for silver, silks, and other luxuries. The Knarr, with its greater cargo capacity, became the workhorse of this vast trading empire, but even the longship, when not engaged in raiding, could carry valuable goods. This economic prosperity, fueled by their maritime prowess, further strengthened Viking societies and provided the resources for continued expansion and shipbuilding. The longship's enduring legacy in warfare is its demonstration of the strategic power of mobility and surprise. It proved that a technologically advanced and adaptable naval force could overcome numerical superiority and static defenses. It forced other powers to develop their own naval capabilities, leading to an arms race that would shape European naval history for centuries. The lessons learned from confronting the longship, the need for rapid response, flexible deployment, and effective sea control, would become foundational principles of naval strategy, influencing everything from the design of later warships to the development of coastal defense systems. The Viking longship, therefore, was far more than just a boat. It was a weapons system, a tool of trade, an instrument of exploration, and a symbol of an entire civilization. Its revolutionary design and the tactical innovations it enabled changed warfare forever, leaving an indelible mark on the history of Europe and beyond. Its story is a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the transformative power of a truly groundbreaking technology. The very structure of Viking society was, in many ways, an extension of the longship. The hierarchical nature of a ship's crew, with the captain at its apex and the oarsmen warriors forming the backbone, mirrored the chieftain-led social order. The communal effort required to build, maintain, and operate these vessels fostered a strong sense of collective identity and purpose. Every man on board had a role, and the success of the voyage, whether for raid, trade, or exploration, depended on the harmonious functioning of the entire group. This deep-seated understanding of collective action, honed on the decks of their ships, translated directly into their military and societal organization. Consider the meticulous planning involved in a major Viking expedition. It wasn't merely a spontaneous outburst of violence. While opportunistic raids certainly occurred, large-scale campaigns, such as the Great Heathen Army's invasion of England in the 9th century, required immense logistical coordination. Hundreds of longships, carrying thousands of warriors, horses, and supplies, had to be assembled, provisioned, and directed. The longship was the linchpin of this logistical marvel. Its capacity to carry a significant number of warriors, their weapons, and provisions, combined with its speed and shallow draft, allowed for the rapid deployment of forces deep into enemy territory, far from traditional supply lines. This self-sufficiency and mobility were key to sustaining prolonged campaigns, enabling the Vikings to establish winter camps and operate independently for extended periods. The psychological impact of the longship was also amplified by the organized nature of Viking warfare. It wasn't just a few scattered raiders, it was often a disciplined force, arriving in a fleet, disembarking swiftly, and forming coherent battle lines. The longship was the initial shock, the visual harbinger of impending doom, but the disciplined warriors it carried were the instruments of that doom. The combination of terrifying appearance and organized combat capability created a psychological pressure that often broke local resistance before a single blow was struck. Many communities, seeing the dragon-proud ships and the disciplined warriors emerging from them, chose flight over feudal resistance. The longship's design also influenced the development of weaponry and combat tactics. Warriors fought with axes, swords, and spears, often from the decks of their ships during naval engagements or immediately upon landing. The open nature of the longship's deck provided a clear platform for archers and slingers to unleash volleys of projectiles before closing for hand-to-hand combat. The portability of their weapons and armor was also a consideration, as they needed to be easily transported and deployed from the ships. This integration of naval architecture with land-based fighting styles was a unique aspect of Viking warfare, blurring the lines between sea and land combat. The very concept of sea control and power projection, as we understand it today, has roots in the Viking Age. While not articulated in modern terms, the Vikings demonstrated the immense strategic advantage of controlling the seas and using that control to project military and economic power far from their homeland. Their longships gave them unparalleled freedom of movement, allowing them to choose when and where to strike, to bypass strongpoints, and to exploit weaknesses across vast geographical areas. This mastery of maritime logistics and power projection was a profound shift in military thought, showcasing the decisive role that naval supremacy could play in shaping geopolitical outcomes. The enduring mythos of the Vikings, as fearsome warriors and intrepid explorers, is inextricably linked to their ships. The longship is not just a historical artifact, it is an icon, a symbol of an age defined by daring voyages, brutal raids, and transformative cultural exchange. It represents the pinnacle of pre-modern naval engineering, a design so perfectly adapted to its environment and purpose that it allowed a relatively small population to leave an indelible mark on the global stage. The ingenuity of the longship also lay in its relative simplicity and ease of repair, at least for skilled craftsmen. While complex in its overall design, the individual components were robust and replaceable. A damaged plank could be replaced, a torn sail mended, or a broken or fashioned anew. This made the longship incredibly resilient in the field, allowing fleets to operate far from their home bases for extended periods without needing to return for major repairs. This logistical independence further enhanced their strategic flexibility and endurance, enabling longer expeditions and more sustained campaigns. Moreover, the longship was a platform for innovation in other areas. The need for efficient sails led to advancements in textile production and weaving techniques. The demand for strong, durable timber spurred sophisticated forestry practices. The requirement for thousands of iron rivets fostered advancements in metallurgy and blacksmithing. Thus, the longship was not just a product of existing technologies. It was also a driver of new technological and artisanal developments across various fields, demonstrating its pervasive influence on Viking society as a whole. The impact of the longship on the European psyche cannot be overstated. For centuries, the sight of these vessels on the horizon meant terror, destruction, and uncertainty. The prayers from the fury of the Northmen, "Deliver us, O Lord," became a common refrain, reflecting the deep-seated fear instilled by the swift and unpredictable attacks launched from these ships. This psychological warfare, enabled by the longship's speed and reach, had a profound and lasting effect on the political and social landscape of medieval Europe, forcing societies to adapt and evolve in response to this unprecedented threat. The legacy of the longship is therefore not merely a footnote in naval history. It is a central chapter in the story of human innovation, exploration, and warfare. It stands as a testament to the transformative power of technology when combined with human ambition and skill. The longship allowed the Vikings to transcend geographical limitations, to project their power across continents, and to forever change the way warfare was conceived and conducted. Its story is a powerful reminder that even the most seemingly simple innovations can have the most profound and far-reaching consequences. The longship was also instrumental in the formation of new political entities and states. In areas like Normandy, the British Isles, and parts of Eastern Europe, Viking settlements and conquests, facilitated by their ships, led to the establishment of new kingdoms and duchies. The Normans, descendants of Vikings who settled in France, would later use their own advanced naval capabilities to conquer England in 1066, a conquest that, while using different ship designs, owed a conceptual debt to the amphibious warfare tactics pioneered by their Norse ancestors. The very idea of projecting power across the English Channel, for instance, became a military reality due to the earlier Viking demonstrations of maritime invasion. This adaptation and evolution of naval power, spurred by the Viking challenge, continued for centuries. The development of larger, more heavily armed ships in the later medieval period, designed to counter threats and project power, can be seen as a direct lineage from the lessons learned during the Viking Age. The longship had set a new standard for naval versatility and strategic reach, compelling all subsequent maritime powers to strive for similar levels of effectiveness. The longship's influence also extended to the realm of cultural exchange and identity. As Vikings settled in foreign lands, their ships continued to serve as a connection to their homeland, facilitating trade, communication, and the movement of people and ideas. This constant flow of goods and culture, enabled by their maritime prowess, enriched both the Norse diaspora and the communities they interacted with. From the sagas that celebrated epic voyages to the intricate carvings that adorned their ships, the longship was a central motif in Viking art, literature, and self-perception. It was not just a tool, it was an integral part of their identity, a symbol of their adventurous spirit and their mastery of the sea. The archaeological discoveries of longships, such as those at Oseberg, Gokstad, and Skuldelv, have provided invaluable insights into their construction, design, and cultural significance. These remarkably preserved vessels, unearthed from burial mounds or submerged in ancient waterways, stand as tangible links to a bygone era. They allow us to marvel at the precision of their craftsmanship, the elegance of their lines, and the sheer audacity of the voyages they undertook. Each plank, each rivet, tells a story of human ingenuity and resilience, echoing the triumphs and tragedies of the Viking Age. These archaeological finds have also helped to dispel many myths and romanticized notions about Viking ships, replacing them with a more accurate and nuanced understanding. We now know, for instance, that the famous dragon heads were often detachable, and that not all longships were adorned with them. We understand the subtle differences between various types of longships, from the nimble drakkar to the sturdy Knarr, each optimized for a specific purpose. This scientific approach has allowed us to reconstruct not just the ships themselves, but also the maritime culture that created and sustained them. The enduring fascination with Viking ships is a testament to their profound impact. They represent a pivotal moment in naval history, a point where technological innovation fundamentally reshaped warfare, exploration, and global interaction. The longship was a testament to a people who understood the power of the sea, not as a barrier, but as a highway, a means to connect distant lands and to project their will across vast distances. Its revolutionary design opened up new possibilities, sparking an age of unprecedented expansion and forever altering the course of human events. The longship, in its essence, was the ultimate expression of Viking ingenuity and ambition. It was the vehicle that carried them from the fringes of Europe to the forefront of global history, enabling them to explore, raid, trade, and settle across 3 continents. Its impact on warfare was not just tactical, it was strategic, psychological, and ultimately transformative. It taught the world that naval power, when wielded with innovation and daring, could be a decisive force, capable of reshaping empires and redefining the very boundaries of the known world. The echoes of its clinker-built hull and square sail still resonate through the annals of history, a powerful reminder of how a single technological leap can change everything forever.